15 minutes. We're going to eat at, I forgot the Daily Beast on Hurdle and Parker are near Dashes. And then we're going to walk. Jill suggested to see the murals on Hurdle for a nice walk. So that's what I'm going to do.
All right, we're going to come together. I see we're starting to go on live now. So welcome. It's really good to see each other. I'm going to ask you now to mute yourselves. If not, Joanne, the expert muter there, will help out. It has nothing to do with you. We'd love to hear your voice. And someday soon, we're going to all be in the parking lot or in the sanctuary together. And we'll be able to talk to one another on Zoom. It becomes very awkward, but we really appreciate you guys being here. It's really, really nice to see each other's faces. And at least that allows for some ability to feel a little bit normal. I was talking to a colleague friend of mine in Philadelphia, and she was telling me, you know, the Zoom brings up the middle school nature of herself. She said when she's on the Zoom, suddenly she wants to talk to her neighbor and, you know, while the teacher is talking. I thought that was pretty funny and really very true. So we're going to come together. Let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air. We breathe in everything we want to hold on to, breathe out everything we want to let go of. And I'm going to turn it over to our synagogue president that I think has figured out his audio.
I hope so.
To do the welcoming.
I hope so. Are we hearing, you hear me now? Is it good? Excellent. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone, and welcome to our Zoom Shabbat. With the weather that we're experiencing this week, we certainly know that we're going to be in the parking lot soon. We're going to be out there. The weather's warming up, and we will be back together as a group. Stay tuned. We have some new developments this year in the way that we are going to be doing our Park and Praise. We think we've come up with some ways to make them a better experience for you. So we'll look forward to that. And as you've heard me talk about for the last couple of weeks, you can also look forward to an in-person service in the building. That is coming up. I'll have more details on that coming up a little bit later, with very, very strict protocols, just so you know, guidelines that will be very strictly enforced. You may look at it and go, boy, you're being very overcautious, but that's exactly what we've been this whole time. We always want to take every step that we can with your safety in mind, and still keeping you connected to the temple in as many ways as we possibly can. So I'll be back with more information about that a little bit later, along with a very long list of announcements of things that are coming up. So Shabbat Shalom and enjoy the service.
Thank you. And this is for Al Gallen. I do have my baseball tie, and I do believe I heard that maybe the Toronto Blue Jays are coming to Bison Stadium in June. So that'll be very exciting. I can't wait. So we're gonna turn it over to Cantor and Mike, and we're gonna sing and be together. So wonderful to have you.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
What a beautiful picture you had there. Just feels like we've entered into each other's homes, which we have. So we're going to light candles. I know some of you joined us beforehand. As we shift into more spring and summer mode, we're not going to be gathering as many times at 6:45, but we'll try to light as much as we can together. Light brings us hope, and it's so wonderful also to have the light around us. So I'll turn it over to Cantor to lead us in the prayer.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'tzivanu leharik ner shel Shabbat.
Blessed are you, the candles that light our way into Shabbat. Cantor, I think maybe you should turn your volume up. I don't have my volume up. I think you're a little bit low. And we're going to turn it over to our Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh bereshit, ki hu yom techilah למקראי קודש, זכר יציאת מצרים, כי באנו בחרת, ואותנו קידשת מכל עמים, ושבת קודשך באהבה וברצון הנחלתנו. ברוך אתה אדוני מקדש השבת.
L'chaim. In our Talmud study this week, we learned that when you quote from people, your teachers, it is like drinking aged wine. I love that quote. So as we move into Shabbat, I think it's time to welcome in our Shabbat guests, our angels that are there with us, that we welcome in, and then we bid goodbye at the end of Shabbat.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei HaShabbat, Malachei Elyon, Mir Melech, Malachei Amlachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Boker Shalom, Malachei Shalom, Malachei Elyon,
I can feel the angels, and I can see them when I look at all of your faces on Zoom. We're going to sing now Lecha Dodi as we welcome in now the Shabbat bride, the other image of Shabbat, into our hearts, into our lives. We'll sing together that first verse. On the last verse, we rise and we'll face whatever doorway you so choose, and we'll welcome one another into the space. Cantor, and Mike, you couldn't see it, but everyone was dancing. It was amazing. I think you have a real hit with that one. It was super cool. It reminded me, I was at a light right on Sheridan, and coming off the highway, and I saw this young woman, and she was singing to her heart's delight in her car. It was the most amazing thing. And watching everyone with their Zoom mute on, that's what it felt like. Just so much joy. So we remain standing for the Barchu, our call to prayer. Oh God, you are as near as the very air we breathe, yet farther than the farthermost star. We yearn to reach you. We seek the light and warmth of your presence. Though we say you are near, we are lonely and alone. Oh, let our desire be so strong that it will tear the veil that keeps you from our sight. Let your light release our darkness and reveal the glory and joy of your presence.
Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. 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 Baruch shenkivod malchuto le'olam va'ed. Baruch shenkivod malchuto le'olam va'ed. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad.
You may be seated.
V'yavta it Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavecha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol miyotecha v'hayu ha'devarim ha'ele asher Elohim etzavecha hayom al levavcha v'shiratam levanecha v'dibartam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'v'shochtecha u'v'kumecha u'kshartam le'ot hayadecha v'hayu letotafot בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
As we head into the Michamocha about crossing the sea, think about one moment this week where you did something where you amazed even yourself. Think about the amazing beauty or steps you took or learnings or growth. Think about all of that. Each time we learn something new, we take a chance, we are crossing the sea again.
Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, ya la 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 la. Mi kamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedam hakodesh, narati lo osefele. כי פתרנו את יעקב, וגלו מיד חזק ממנו, ברוך אתה אדוני, גוי ישראל.
Give us a place to rest, Adonai our God. Bring us into shelter in the soft, long evening shadows of your truth. For with you are true protection and safety. Your presence, our acceptance and gentle love. Watch over us as we go forth. Prepare for us as we return. Spread over us your shelter of peace, over all we love, over our Jerusalem and yours. Baruch atah Adonai haporech sukat shalom aleinu. V'al kol amo Yisrael, v'al Yerushalayim. This moment, we're going to take time for our own private prayers and devotions, the prayers of our hearts. Take some time, maybe move away from the Zoom screen and look out into the beautiful world outside, and take time to reflect, and then we'll resume just a couple of minutes.
Shalom Ra'am Ha'Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Ra'am Ha'Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Ki ata לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון, לכל השלום, שלום רב, הישראל עמך, תשים לעולם, שלום רב, הישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה Shalom Ra'am Ha'Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Shalom Ra'am Ha'Yisrael Amcha Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam. Tasim Le'olam.
We're going to turn now to our healing prayers. And thankfully, we had a few people come off of our list this week. And we are grateful. And I know this is a difficult time, especially with the COVID going rampant around our community. And so we're really sending our wishes out to everyone here and to others. So I'm going to read a list of names. If you want to put your names in the chat box of people that you're thinking about, I'll read them afterwards. And we'll send some positive energy out into the world. Lee Applebaum, Andrew Joseph Bernard, Marietta Bratton, Sonia Breitbart, Kim Brodsky, Michael Berwick, Karen Cooper, Arthur Dzelke, Dave Gajewski, Irene Green, Nancy Hersbrun, Sue Hill, Howard Hilfstein, Ruth Lansing, Diane Lynch, Kathy Mass, Michael Massimo, Jennifer Milich, Karen Place, Richard Radis, Martin and Barbara Scher, Michael Citron, Gail Willig Smith, Gretchen Solander, Lorenzo Stewart, Cindy Walgate, Fred Weiner, Lauren Wolf and family, and Hannah Ezra Bat Shuel. We're also thinking about Paul Burkow, Richie Merlot, Rachel, Don, Kyra, and Bill P., Sharon Burstein Walker, Roger Beiswanger, Kate Cooper, Stacy DeBruin, Carol Wilson, Stephen Bernstein, Jeannie Schmith, Sophie Block, and Jesse Frank. And we'll now recite our prayer together as we think about all the names we listed.
May the source of strength, who blessed the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. B'Shebebrach Imotenu Mikol habracha Lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shelema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
A complete healing of body and soul. Thank you, Cantor and Mike. As Cantor takes down her screen share, I want to tell you what I did during the Amidah, the portion of our private prayers. I went to the window behind me over here and I looked out. This is a wonderful time to be having Shabbat services. I felt like the Kabbalists because I saw the sun beginning to shrink over the trees in a beautiful way. There's a wonderful oak or elm behind us. And I could see that there was a bird on it. Oh, and I see Karen Weissman. She saw a rainbow when she looked out. It felt quiet and it felt at peace. And Joanne said the same thing. We're in the place of rainbows with Niagara Falls so close. But quiet and silence is very complicated. And I'm going to talk to you today about the quiet that's in our Torah portion and also in our world and kind of how to make sense of it a little bit. So let me share my screen. They might see two different Rabbi Alexes. That's not because there's two of me. It's because I have one that's a screen share. Okay, so we're in Parshat Shmini in Leviticus. And this is a very important portion, one of my favorite ones. Oh. Okay, so when we think about silence, there's a lot of different types of silences. One of them is about a conspiracy of silence or culture of silence. This is something I learned as I was looking into this presentation, that there actually can be this way of silencing people. We all know about this, but it's a very powerful thing. And it can not just silence an individual, it can silence an entire society. We've all been part of this in small groups when we have felt silence at one time or another. And it really has, it has a very, very deep impact on our psyche. That's a really negative type of silence that we're going to see in this Torah portion today. So we see this, of course, most famously in the Holocaust, this wonderful reading by Martin Niemöller, the Protestant minister. And it's, of course, very familiar. We had Yom HaShoah yesterday. First, they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, but I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak for me. I think what you feel in his words is the guilt. Likely, Reverend Niemöller could not have spoken out. It was extremely dangerous to speak out, and the people he was referring to. But it doesn't mean that we don't feel the guilt inside, that we wish that we had spoken out. So let's look at the Torah portion. Here you have a depiction of it. This is the famous scene of Nadav and Abihu that we're going to look at in the Torah. You have Aaron, the father, standing there, and underneath that fire from God is his sons that will perish in that fire. And it's one of the large tragedies and a very complicated story that always gets to me every year. So here's the story in the Torah from Leviticus 10. Now Aaron's son, Nadav and Abihu, each took his fire pan. This is like, frying eggs there. And they put fire in it, and they laid incense on it, and they offered before Adonai an alien fire. In the Hebrew, you do have that sense of alien. It's zara, foreign, something strange, but it's not explained, which Adonai had not adjoined upon them, did not command them to do, siva. On the second verse, the fire came forth from Adonai and consumed them. Thus they died at the instance of Adonai. So there's a terrible, terrible tragedy that happens in a split second in front of everyone. And we're kind of left bereft. Now look at this next part here, which is really the hardest verse, one of the hardest in all of Torah. And Moses said to Aaron, "This is what Adonai meant when they said, 'Through those near to me, I show myself holy.'" One of the most confusing statements. And this is Moses saying this right away, "and gain glory before all the people." Okay, so Moses steps forward into this and remarks that this is almost like a holy action, that there's something holy in this awful thing, and maybe intentional. And then we have the most awful words in the Torah, Vayidom Aharon. It has a poetry to it that you can hear in the Hebrew. Aaron was silent. Vayidom Aharon. We have to wonder, what kind of silence is this? What was going on? Is he silent because he's in shock? Is he silent because he can't speak, because he's not allowed to speak? When we think about trauma, this is from an American author, Jane Levy. I think she writes about baseball mostly, but I like this quote. "Trauma fractures comprehension as a pebble shatters a windshield. The wound at the site of impact spreads across the field of vision, obscuring reality and challenging belief." That it really impacts everything when you have a trauma like that. So as we think about silence, silence can be a lot of things, as I said. It can be soothing. It can also be constricting. It can be expansive. It can also be oppressive. It can be freeing. It can also be controlling. It can be inviting, and it can be limiting. It's confusing silence. There's a wonderful, actually, ancient god that perfectly represents this. I just learned about this in looking into silence today. This is a god that you actually might be familiar with, but you don't know why. His name is Harpocrates, and he's kind of a little-known god that was originally an Egyptian god. It was the son of the sun god, Horus, and Horus the child is another way to say him. He's usually depicted, you see, I'm going to show you with the cursor here, you see over here, there is the finger in front of the mouth. Do you see that? We know that symbol, right? Shh. That's how the Greeks actually understood it, but it's a misinterpretation. The Greeks, when they came to the Egyptians, they thought that Harpocrates was about silence, the confusing nature of silence. But that was not what this god was about at all. It was about the sunshine, the sunrise, sunset, that time when the sun is right at the heaven, like we have right now, right at the horizon. It wasn't about silence. There was a beauty, maybe a quietness. It was a child god, but not silence. And yet this finger in front of its mouth was misinterpreted all those years later, just as silence is really confusing and difficult to discern. This is a quote from Rumi that I found. Listen to silence, it has so much to say. That could be taken in so many different ways, just that saying. Is it listen to it because you have to, because it's a danger? Or is it listen to it because it's like opening a good book? What does it mean? What does it mean when we look into silence, especially in this world of Zoom, where silence even means something different? This is a political scientist at Duke who does a lot of economic scientists, actually. He's from Turkey originally, and he studies silence in societies. He said, people often stay silent even when they want to speak up. We may think something in private and say nothing in public. This happens to individuals who've suffered abuse. This happens to entire nations. Just a couple of weeks ago, we heard from Melania Puyas, who talked about in Romania, the silence there, the silencing that also happens in our own societies. This is a quote that I've often used. It's one of my favorite quotes from Hasidic tradition, the Kutzker Rebbe. There's nothing as whole as a broken heart and the scream of silence, that sense of silence actually screaming. And this you might recognize from a famous Simon and Garfunkel tune, which is very powerful. I was looking it over today. Fools, said I, you do not know, silence like a cancer grows. Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you. But my words like silent raindrops fell and echoed in the wells of silence. That sense of he's actually talking in a dream and not being able to express his words. He wrote these words not long after Martin Luther King was assassinated. That sense of chaos in society. And we felt this silence also this week. And we had the trial of the police officer in Minnesota and that terrible image that's broken our heart. This is actually a depiction by an Israeli artist who was so touched by the video that he instantly went out and created this image of George Floyd. And you can see just, it's almost like he's sleeping, but it's also the pain, the quiet, the time. And this is what the artist said on I think, Twitter right afterwards. His name is Dan Reesner, wonderful artist. There is a deep moment of tranquility at the very moment of death. The body is in a total let go. It allows gravity to do its thing. There is a pause, a brief quiet between the terrible act of killing to the afterworld-wide uprising. When gravity pulls down, the soul pulls up. It's time to change. You could feel all the emotion, but the silence. Let's just, because one of the ways that we use silence is memory. And so let's take just a minute now for silence and remembering the man who was George Floyd. That's really part of everything this week in particular. We can feel his presence. It's actually hard to sit in silence. As a leader, I can tell you it's hard. It's hard to figure out what a minute is, but it's hard. As we think about his birth and his death there, it's a reminder, the power of silence. Thinking back on Nadav and Avihu, we had another event this week, which is Holocaust Memorial Week, and actually connects directly to the memory of Nadav and Avihu. Nadav and Avihu were killed in a sacrifice. And when we think about Holocaust, the word Holocaust actually comes from the Septuagint, the Greek for a sacrifice. Holos meaning whole, kostos meaning burnt. A burnt offering, which in Hebrew is an olah, was a common practice. And that's what they were participating in. So we directly connect. The Hebrew Shoah, this is the verse that it's from in Zephaniah. I thought it would be helpful also to see that, which talks about, over here you see Yom Shoah, a day of calamity and desolation, talking about the end time. But in a way, this Holocaust, this word itself brings to life the memory of Nadav and Avihu. I was thinking, and I also found this wonderful quote, if we held a moment of silence for every victim of the Holocaust, we would be silent for 11 and a half years. It's incredible, right? I was thinking about silence this week, and I wrote this poem, just trying to evoke the complicated nature of it. The curse of silence. Stars, in fact, reverberate, buzzing like street lamps when, on cool summer nights, swarms of gnats surround them. And even when we think no one can hear, our hearts pound, bellies rumble, tears cry as they slide down our cheeks. If nothing can be heard, check your hearing. Even silence has sound, a slight grovel like a white noise machine, unable to be turned off. Just go and try, and what you think of as quiet will scream, turning even sunshine into piercing shards of light. I'm going to stop our share now. So let's pay attention to silence. I think that's what the lesson is. I don't know, we'll never know about why Aaron was silent, but we do know that silence has that dual nature that we don't know. And I think that the important thing is not to be silence, but to allow silence to come to us. So we're going to turn back now in our service. I'll turn it back to Cantor Frank and Mike as we go to the moment where we need to rise for Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ
You may be seated. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish. And I just learned of a passing, I learned of two passings today. First, Sam Chorus. I've been mispronouncing his name because it's spelled differently than Bruce and Rella's. But Sam Chorus, you might know that's Sonia Sugarman's significant other, and he passed just a few hours ago. And so our thoughts and prayers are with his family and with Sonia, of course. We also, I know, have with us Janine Morris and her brother-in-law, Frank Petrie died. I think I said it wrong. I'll have to get the correction. Joe was telling me how to say it correctly. May his memory be a blessing. I know Joe told me that Janine was able to get out to the Midwest, I think Wisconsin, to see them, to see her sister in particular before her brother-in-law died. And we're grateful for that. And may his memory be for a blessing. We're also remembering Sylvia Jones, that was someone, I think it's Yolanda Ammerman's close friend who had died. On our Shloshim list, we're remembering Carlton DeBozen, Helen Donnelly, Charles Lemansky, Francis Massimo, Levi Palmer Jr., and Robert Jr. Powell Jr. And from our yahrzeit list from years past, we remember Mitchell Benson, Sylvia Berger, Bessie Berman, Richard Bach, Bernard Brown, Albert Cohen, Zelda Feldman, Rolane Feugelman, Mary Friedman, Gary Fredig, Victoria Gembitsky, Ralph Gefsky, Ethel Gerstel, Leonard Goodman, William Heitner, Rose Gordon Hirschhorn, Donald Horowitz, Richard Sanford Horwitz, Lillian Hurwitz, Madge Johnson, Hella Kaminsky, Harry Karch, Bessie Lane, Ida Lieberman, Russell Lewis, Albert Mandelkern, Rose Meyer, Karen Rank, Edward Reese, Joyce Rubin, Samuel Rubin, Julian Sapphire, Martha Schneider, Samuel Sherman, Carl Schubert, Samuel Slepian, Rosalind Stringer, Maury Sugar, Harry Tubin, Betty D. Tufts, and Harry Weiss. If you have other names, I didn't see any names on there, but we're sending out thoughts to everyone who is in mourning. I'll invite you to rise for the Mourner's Kaddish, all whose custom it is to do so. Yitgadal, v'yitkadash, shemei rabah, v'yalma, v'yibrach, v'yirteh, v'yamlich, malchuteh, v'chayachon, v'yamachon, v'chayeh, v'chol beit Yisrael, v'agalah, v'zman, kariv, v'yimru, amen. Yehi shmei rabah, barach, le'olam, omei omayah. Yitbarach, yishtabach, yitba'ar, yitramam, v'yitnaseh. Yitadar, yitaleh, yitalal, shmei kudashah, rechu. Leila mikol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, damiran, yalma, yimru, amen. Yehi shlam rabba, min shemaya. Chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'yimru, amen. Oseh shalom, b'imramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael, v'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'yimru, amen. May God grant peace to all their souls and to our world. And we say, Amen. Zikronam livracha. You may be seated. I'm going to turn it over to Bruce Chorus to offer our announcements.
Oh, there we go. Shabbat Shalom again, everyone. We have a lot of activities coming up this weekend. I will zip through all of them. First of all, Mazel Tov to Adam Bukowski and his family on his bar mitzvah tomorrow afternoon at 1:00 p.m. You can watch the bar mitzvah by going to our website, Facebook, or YouTube. Rabbi and Cantor and I were together for his rehearsal last night. Kids doing a great job. So we are looking forward to that very much. Speaking of Rabbi and Cantor, thank you, Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, and Mike Frank for tonight's lovely service in honor of Shabbat. The music was beautiful. The words were meaningful. It was very nice. I really felt like we were all together tonight, more so than usual. Speaking of being together, stay tuned for that announcement. Tomorrow morning, we have virtual offerings, Torah study at 9 a.m., Shabbat morning service with Temple Beth Israel from Willimantic, Connecticut. We apparently ran out of temples in Pennsylvania. That is at 10 a.m., followed by the virtual. I love watching Rabbi when I do this. Followed by the virtual Kiddush luncheon. Then there is junior congregation at 10 a.m. All of the events are via Zoom. The website has the link. Sunday, we have religious school for grades 3 to 7 at 9:30 in the morning, grades 5 to 7 at 10:45 in the morning. They are special classes this week. So if you have any questions about any of that, contact Inab Simons, our religious school director. Sunday morning, there's a very, very special event at 11 a.m. It is our Community Yom HaShoah commemoration. I was honored to serve on the committee again this year, and the rabbi, the cantor, and myself are actually in the commemoration. So please join us for that. That is very, very special. That's at 11 a.m. via Zoom. Registration is required. Joanne, maybe you can put the link in the chat if at all possible so people can see it. And I know it's been emailed out to the congregation as well. If you have any questions about it, shoot me an email or a text. Next Friday, candle lighting at 6:45, Erev Shabbat service at 7, followed by the virtual Oneg Shabbat at the end of the service. Candle lighting, one Zoom, service on another Zoom, register for the service, candle lighting, just show up. We'll be happy to have you. Hey, show of hands. Who's in the mood? By the way, Cantor, you're still sharing the mourner's Kaddish. Show of hands. Who is in the mood for chicken? Paul, I saw your hand go up. Joanne just put the link in the chat for everyone. Paul's hand went up, I know, and Sheila's. I saw a bunch of others because, oh boy, Shabbat is back. Our first of the year, first of many. This coming Tuesday, it's from 4 to 7 or until sold out. Pre-orders are available on the website. And of course, if you order in advance, you can get a savings. Summer's almost here and Shabbat is here. So that's exciting. It's drive-through, of course, masks, social distancing required. I know I'm going to be seeing many of you as I work parking lot duty on Tuesday, which, by the way, will be so much nicer than the last parking lot duty back in December when I was a Brucicle out there in the cold. I'm very much looking forward to this one. By the way, speaking of nice events, hope you enjoyed the virtual concert with Noah Boudin and his accompanists, which, by the way, as the cantor pointed out last week, they were playing musical chairs and musical instruments. So they were shaking things up, but it was great. Thank you to Rabbi Alex and Cantor Frank for arranging it. Noah's great. We know he's a great friend of our temple, and he always loves participating in things with us. And boy, we are so looking forward to the day that he's actually here, whether it's in our parking lot or in our sanctuary when he comes back and can join us in person. And I know that day will come. The recording of the concert, by the way, is available on the website. Just click watch our services live or recorded and look for the archived Noah Boudin concert. So speaking of service, you've heard me talk about this. And we are going to, if all goes well, fingers crossed, we are planning to have our first indoor service in the sanctuary for the first time with people in more than a year. 2 weeks from tonight, Friday, April 23rd, it will be limited to 36 attendees. Notice the symbolism of that double high. And we will have extremely strict guidelines that will be strictly enforced. So if at the end of the service, you're wondering, well, why did you do that? You can complain to me all you want, but we are always going to err on the side of caution. Email Joanne. Reservations are required. We will have a questionnaire that you will need to fill out. Masks, of course, are required. There will be guidelines, but we will be together in the building for the first time in more than a year. So that will be very, very special. Reservations are first come, first served. And we, of course, are giving priority to people who have yard site that night. More details are being emailed out, so look for that. But that is Friday, April 23rd. And again, we're limiting it to 36 people, but if all goes well, we will be doing another one a couple weeks later. And those of you that tried to get to the first one will be given priority to get to the second one. So we will get as many congregants as possible who want the opportunity. And I know not everyone is ready for it, but as many people as possible who want to be there will have the opportunity. We've missed you. We've missed being together in that place, and we are looking forward to it. If you need anything at all, please reach out to myself, the rabbi, the cantor, or Joanne, especially Joanne, if it's late at night or early in the morning. She's always available to take your calls. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Oneg Shabbat will follow on this Zoom following the service. Please stick around and schmooze for a while. Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
You like that, use your guitar. Spiritual tonight. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I got peace like a river in my soul. Try with me. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. Second verse. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. Sing with me. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean. I've got love like an ocean in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain in my soul. I've got joy like a fountain. I've got joy like a fountain. Joy like a fountain in my soul. Peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river in my soul. I've got peace like a river. I've got peace like a river. Peace like a river in my soul.
I think half of our congregation is down where that river is. I see a lot of them are down in Florida and Arizona now during this past week. We have
Rabbi?
What's that? Yeah.
That picture is taken right in Buffalo.
Oh, really?
Behind the Buffalo History Museum, where the cherry blossoms are. And our cherry blossom pictures, that's on the Lecha Dodi, was taken on their cherry blossom festival a few years ago when everybody was out and about. So that is right behind the Buffalo History Museum.
You don't have to go anywhere, right?
You don't have to go anywhere. Just stay in Buffalo. You can see and feel it all.
I love that. Joanne, I think we have Hamotzi, if you'd like to lead us.
We do. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen.
As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Shabbat Shalom. We're so glad you joined us. And we hope you'll stay for the virtual Oneg right afterwards.
Shabbat
you can
Shalom,
unmute
everyone.
at this point.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now you can unmute and talk.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Everybody have a good
Shalom.
Have a good week.
Shabbat